Fantastic. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. This is the next to the last period in PodCamp 5, so we're coming up to the smashing close of the whole event. I'm Cindy Closkey. I'm the president of Big to Big Design, and we're doing a session on social media for kids. So I have two panelists here. We're going to be talking about the projects that they're involved in, as well as sort of overall issues about social media and children, and how that is similar to, different from, how it is for parents, how kids interact online. We've got a whole bunch of topics. Some procedural notes. As with everything else at PodCamp, the law of 2 feet applies. So if there's another session that you need to attend partway through and you need to take off, we will be taking notes, but only to follow up and find out what good stuff you learned elsewhere afterwards. And then, of course, this is all being recorded as well. And we're hoping if there's anyone who's watching us online, there's a chat room. We've got someone monitoring the chat as well. So if you have a question you want to type in and share with us, we'd be delighted to have that discussion with you too. So, my name is Cindy Closkey. My company is Big Big Design. And with me today, we have Rebecca Gagne, who is the founder of iTwixie, the premier social network for tween girls. I get to read all of her accomplishments here. She's a graduate from the University of Michigan, and she worked in New York City for nearly 10 years at some of the world's biggest advertising agencies with some of the world's most iconic kid brands, including Oreo and Lego. 3 of her 4 children are verifiable tween girls who love to play with and wrestle their little brother. Rebecca dreams of the day when a girl can climb a tree, dance ballet, and program her robot and feel fabulous about it all. That day is coming. Girls really can do anything. You go, girls. Very cool.
Right on.
And then we have here Heather Malik, who is web curator for Girls Math and Science Partnership, which is a program of the Carnegie Science Center. Girls Math and Science Partnership's mission is to engage, educate, and embrace girls as architects of change. She came to GMSP from Wizard Media, where she worked with, Wizard Media very closely tied to PodCamp from the very beginning, where she worked with prominent podcasters from across the world. Heather has degrees in visual communication and interactive media, as well as a strong background in contemporary art. She has curated national and international gallery and museum exhibitions, and her personal world has appeared on television, in magazines, and in numerous blogs. She lived in a converted bowling pin factory, so we're going to have to hear about that at some point. We can fit that in today, for many years, but more recently settled into a home of her own with her media artist husband, Dror, and their son, Ziv. So thank you, everybody, for coming and joining us. We're going to be talking about a number of things about social media. I've alluded very quickly to the work that these two are doing already and are building and growing in. But I wanted to have them each give you a little bit of perspective on those projects, because I think they're really interesting and they bring in a lot of the issues that we want to talk about. These are kids, by the way, in the screen behind me, but we have a little bit of some screenshots, and we'll just kind of roll through these things as we go. Social Media for Kids, PodCamp 5, and here's our names. I'll have contact information at the end of the session as well for everyone. iTwixie. Rebecca, would you like to talk to us about iTwixie a little bit?
Surely. In brief, iTwixie was created to become the ultimate tween girl hangout. And the reason why it needed to become the ultimate tween girl hangout is because right now, if you're a tween girl and you search for a place online that is authentically representing what you're going through, nothing exists. Right now, or until iTwixie was launched, if you were a tween girl, only sensationalistic versions of what you experience existed online. So iTwixie was formed to authentically represent the tween girl experience, empower tween girls around the globe, and offer brands, companies, organizations that seek to engage tween girls in an authentic way the opportunity to learn from what these authentic girls really, really feel about, learn about, and actually how they react to what is being developed for them in this world. And that's what we've done. So we've been online for just over a year, and we've done amazing things in terms of proving a couple of our hypotheses, one of which is that tween girls are incredibly smart and savvy and are interested in a lot more things than just pink glitter and kissing boys. They're incredibly savvy, they're interested in reading and being very kind of intellectual about things that they experience in their lives, and they're really not happy with the things that have been presented to them as choices for them to either enjoy in media, or even the apparel that has been presented to them as supposed to be appropriate, and so forth, and I could go on and on. This is a screenshot of the site. Actually, this is a brand new, exciting tween girl book club offering that we've got going on. Right now, iTwixie is the only site that offers a tween girl book club online globally, and we have a teen author who we are featuring, and we just announced this today, and she wrote this book called The Pages of Red Diamond. Her name is Gabriella Scory, and we're going to be reading this over the next month or so together and having live chats online for tween girls to discuss with Gabriella. How did she write the book? What was her inspiration? Do they like it? Do they not? It's going to be interesting. And this is the first time anything like this has been done. So I think this is a great example, actually, of something that the tween girls wanted, that we developed for them, and now we're enacting.
I have one more screenshot from iTwixie, and because Rebecca doesn't know what I put in the slideshow, I wanted to tell her what it is. It's from I'm So Random, and it's a shot from that, because I think that's another really unique part of the site. Do you want to tell them about that?
Sure. I'm So Random is actually, I love this one. I'm So Random is another good example of what iTwixie is becoming. As the girls all around the world, and we have girls from every single state in the United States and then 30 countries worldwide, and as they get more active in interacting on iTwixie, we measure that. We watch what is the hot thing that most girls are enjoying, what their feedback is, and girls started asking for ways to create a kooky video. We had a very interesting script that they could follow. We offered them, this is about a year ago, we offered them in her shoes opportunities. We asked girls to create an idea for other girls to see what it was like to be them. And so they would make a video that showed us a little bit about their world. Well, they started giving us feedback saying, well, we don't really want to do that. We want to do just kooky things. And we said, great, we'll create a place. We'll call it I'm So Random. And we worked with Big to create this really zany exclamation point that invited the girls to participate. And we've gotten the funniest videos. We have murder mysteries and plays going on I'm So Random. We have girls that just simply take a picture of themselves crossing their eyes. And I think the #1 funniest I'm So Random episode so far has been a girl doing a club called Kids Go Crazy Club. And when they go crazy, they do things like make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And this is like probably the zaniest, most viewed part of I'm So Random right now. And who knows where it's going to go. But it's a great example of what they wanted, that we developed for them, and now is incredibly hot on iTwixie.
Very cool. So Heather, let's talk a little bit about now the GMS P.
Partnership.
I know.
The partnership part.
But you guys have so many initiatives. So again, I've got 2 different screenshots, and I know there's a lot more behind this. So tell us a little bit about what are the highlights there.
So we are a program of the Science Center. We try to promote STEM in engaging, interesting ways to girls online and offline. We, again, online can reach girls, parents, mentors across the world, and have users in I think every continent, almost every continent. And so a few of the initiatives, well, we can talk about, I guess, what's
I'll go to the other one
right
next.
now. This is fun. So these are our new projects. We're kind of just stepping into where Rebecca has been for the past year. Our website and organization has existed for many years, doing some online, some offline, but we were pushing a lot of content, being a really great resource to girls through mentorship matches, contests, scholarships, career exploration. But now we're trying to, and working on one of our projects, Canteen, which I guess we could go to Canteen. And that's how we're involved here with Big, that we are creating a site where girls can push the content, create the content instead of us kind of feeding them. So we also have, we have this online-offline relationship with girls, and have created this kit. Another project that we're developing right now is Click, and we have had summer camps for the past 3 years. There are 3 levels to them. There's biomedical science, environmental, and expressive technology. We've also worked with the Girl Scouts and had an exclusive camp just for Girl Scouts. It's a week long. Each of the girls had laptops. We tried to, push, every girl had iPhones. We really tried to put a lot of technology and cool things in their hands, and this teamwork. So now it's complicated for us, and we're just trying to be really thoughtful and sensitive to these experiences that girls had in person, the camaraderie, and the friendships that they built. How do we really successfully translate that online?
Right.
So
because there are a lot of similarities to it, and yet there's also this. There's not the physical face, and then there are the other issues that sort of surround all online interaction. So,
yeah, some girls came together as friends, or were able to make friendships, and also had mentors or teachers or the leaders of the camps, or somebody who would come in to lead a session, helping just make sure it all continued and they moved on together. So, we're just trying to be very mindful and thoughtful of how we're going to not just create this really cool thing that we think is cool online, but really make sure that we engage them and keep them activated.
Right. Within the context of your overall objectives and goals.
Right. So, Click, we'll go back to Canteen. Canteen is funded by Motorola. And these kits, I guess I don't need to talk about it offline, but we just got some funding to put these physical kits in libraries across the country. But keeping that in mind, now that we're developing this online, it's like how do we keep it all together and benefit one another, the online-offline relationship.
The fact that the online can be updated so quickly and the offline is fairly static, a lot of interest there.
Yeah. And then Click is, so it's a spy camp and agency. We're developing with some people from ETC. And that was a digital media learning competition grant for the Cracker Foundation. So I'm very honored to have gotten this nice chunk of money to create this very cool spy game for girls.
Two fantastic projects. It so happens that they're both girl-focused projects, and I'm not sure how much of what we will be talking about today in relation to these two is broadly applicable across genders, or how much of it's going to be very specific. And maybe we'll just kind of get into that, and we'll do what we can, just kind of think it through. Well, let's start. I have a couple questions prepared, and then I would really love for you folks to chip in with other questions, and then maybe you guys just have some discussion too. So let's. Anytime you have a question, just raise your hand. Let me start with a prepared one, so we feel like we're starting somewhere, and we have a thing. And again, these visuals in the back are just to give us, remind us who we're talking about, I guess. So, starting out here, kid development, user experience, user testing. And again, this comes back to what is it the kids want. What's unique about how kids experience websites? I'm going to jump in a second question here. We kind of rolled them together. How should or how does child development affect the experiences we create for them online? You want to take that, Rebecca?
I'm happy to. This is actually an area of much current debate right now, because there used to be an old school marketing 101 kind of mantra that would tell you that if you take what's successful with a teenager, you probably could use that same thing and offer it to a kid that's preteen and you'll be successful. And that's not true anymore. A teenager's mentality is so developmentally sophisticated and mature right now, and especially in terms of what a teenager experiences online, in entertainment, and in the school world, academic world, as well as at home and developmentally, etc., that it is, and we've done such a good job as a world letting everybody know about all those challenges that a teen experiences and what those kinds of issues are, that we've scared the pants off of tweens, and this is boys and girls. And it's a new dynamic, and we basically really understood globally, we're starting to understand that actually that's not the key to success. Offering what a teenager enjoys to a tweenager is actually a very big problem, because it's either inappropriate, too sophisticated, too mature, or it's going to feel so teen-focused that it's going to feel not representative of the tween experience. And because of that, there's a real need to understand what authentically is the tween experience. Since no longer are you able to just age something down, what is it? What is the thing that's going to authentically engage the tween? And that's where, the challenge has become kind of daunting, because when you're dealing with that age group, there's a lot of regulation about how you learn from kids, especially sub-13. There's a lot of academic kind of proposals and hypotheses that are being tossed around, and it's hard to kind of get your hands around exactly what that demographic is like. And so it's kind of a wonderful moment, because technology is allowing so many resources to do exactly that, to test, to gather feedback, to gain insight about the tween demographic, boy or girl. So it's definitely something that's going to be coming around the corner, but right now it's emerging. And I think from a milestone perspective, there's a lot to be said for the milestones that then that age group also experiences to, I don't know if this is like going into too much detail, but then to even be able to tailor whatever content that you're creating for those different milestones that exist in the tween demographic alone.
Heather, the different projects that your organization does are across these different things too. Does that affect things? That what she's saying about how you guys are putting together the content?
Somewhat. I mean, our age bracket is 11 to 17, and then we hope to kind of focus on 11 to 14. But we're always kind of surprised by what we would assume should appeal to, this on and offline, to the older girls. The younger girls
Can you give an
seem
example?
One of them is Tour Your Future, where we take girls, we offer this program. It's really meant for 13 to 16-year-olds to go visit with a female mentor in a STEM role, so that's science, technology, engineering, math. We've gone to American Eagle Outfitter, Google, Cancer Research Institutes, and we really thought it would be most appropriate for 13 to 16-year-olds who are planning their course curriculum and then what college they may go to, but we tend to get kind of 11 to 13-year-olds coming to these Tour Your Futures. And the career exploration site, working with you. I had to be kind of reminded again of the language, so it's 11, it's really starting 11 because we're finding the girls
They're starting so early. That's interesting.
will show an interest early. The Click Agency too, it's tough. It's like, how do we create something that will appeal to that demographic? And I think you can generalize those age chunks, but I do think there are girls who are 12 who are more developed than some 16-year-olds. I think it depends on your exposure and your parents, if you have older brothers and sisters. That's true too.
Rebecca, right, different kids age at different rates, right? And a girl who might be, and this has been a challenge, this will always be a challenge, I think, in developing the content, is that you don't really target it by age, you let them choose and self-select. Is that correct?
Well, on iTwixie, what we try to do is have almost like a level of engagement of each feature that, on a surface level, something will appeal to the tiniest of our users, and then allow for the content to just be almost like self-selecting, that there's going to be a fall off of how much of the message you're going to get if you're very young, but you're going to be able to get it even more deeply if you're a little older. And then the activation, or the thing that you're going to do with that piece of content, will then be most probably appreciated by the most sophisticated user, meaning, if there's a challenge that they're going to take on, probably the youngest user is not going to be able to do it, but maybe an 11 to 13-year-old will, and then we'll even get the feedback from the older users. So a lot of it's almost like there's a continuum of activity that we promote, and then there's like fall off as you are able.
Yesterday in a different session, it was actually not a session about kids, it was about adults. Someone was asking me about dumbing down their content of it was a webcomic at the time, and how they're dumbing it down to get a broader audience. And I played for them a video of someone ranting about how, when we all watched Bugs Bunny as kids, sometimes we didn't get the things, but that was part of almost the fun and the joy of it. And I think maybe this is part of what's going on, that as you create content, you put it in a space where it's there and kids can reach up to it, and that's part of development, it's part of growing up, and that you're almost giving them the opportunity to see where they could be going in the longer term. So that's got to be it too, right?
Oh, I think Bugs Bunny is a great analogy, and especially because Bugs Bunny was also not necessarily inappropriate on any level. So if you were getting it at its greatest, most intellectual, challenging level as an adult, it was funny, intellectually funny, and there was no harm, no foul. Which is a little bit different than a lot of content that's out there customized for different age groups, and they do then go into a realm where you don't even want the kids to get it because it's way too either mature or yeah. And I think Bugs Bunny is a great example of exactly what you just said. It's the highest level, and so whatever you're able to get, you're going to enjoy some element of it, and then if you get the whole thing, well then good, great, everybody wins.
Also speaking on different levels in a different sense, so we both kind of create websites or initiatives with activities, right?
Yeah.
Some are online, some are offline, a combination of the two. It's also access level of how much time do I want to spend, how much effort do I want to spend. So we're also trying to be conscientious of a girl who has hours and hours that she wants to work on a project, or somebody who can also engage if they just have kind of 10 minutes and that's all they have for that time and want to do that. So we're trying to be also thoughtful of that.
Now user testing too. I mean, I know we spent a lot of time, and you were talking about being surprised by what happens. And I know in just designing any website, certain things turn out exactly the way you want, and then every now and again it's like, wow, I had no idea that was going to happen. Have we seen examples of that happening in iTwixie?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that one of the things that we do on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly basis is we're always looking at the numbers, and then we're also looking at the comments. And so you're really trying to get a full picture of what your response is. And we are always surprised. I mean, sometimes it's a surprise that you would love, because it then makes, we've had examples of, like I'm So Random, one of the most simple elements of the site that just drew the kids in so incredibly powerfully, and how great then that element has then allowed the girls to reach out to themselves in a powerful way, because they authentically represent interesting things that are, I'm sure, surprising everybody if you watch some of the stuff that they're creating. That's a great example of something we never intended, but it has come back. Now, and then we've had some disappointments where we realized there are some issues that we just have to deal with to promote user experience in a very quality way that we didn't expect as well. And it comes at the most unlikely times, like you said.
Can you give us one without, I don't know.
Oh, it's not anything yet. I don't think it's anything really proprietary. It's a matter of, for example, when we first sought to create a space for the girls to upload images. Here's a good example. And we allowed them to upload images to their profile page, and everything on iTwixie is moderated. Well, immediately, there were some things that you could choose that would immediately go up, and then there were some things that you would choose that you would get a little clock in your profile space that told you that it wasn't approved yet. That very simple idea was so misconstrued, and it sent the girls into a tailspin, because they wanted to upload these pictures, but they wanted to see them immediately, and that clock, they did not understand.
Saying it was pending.
It said, and it had a nice clear message. It wasn't clear enough. So, and we sat there, and they were and there was this outlash. What are you doing to my picture? Why is there a clock there? Did I break the site? Okay, so then they saw that. So we had to do a little bit of education, and whatever. And now it's all kind of worked out well. But for a good month, we were, shocked and a little worried that we had caused such a big outlash amongst our community. So I think that's a good example.
Once some of the kids learned and knew what was going on, and other kids would have a question, were they like coaching each other at that point?
Well, that's the wonderful thing of iTwixie, is that definitely happens. And we find that as we model certain messages and policies, the girls immediately, as any community does, I think this is kind of like Community 101, they embrace it. They like the community, they're going to embrace the rules and the culture of that community, and they go forth and propagate it. So that happens, in a very authentic way.
I wanted to talk a little bit too about the whole idea of friending and bullying. So let's take we'll move away from user interface for a little bit, although more questions for that we'll leave some time. But friending and bullying, because I think this is kind of a hot area, certainly in the mass media. And I think there are some issues there, but I want to find out, what are we finding? So how are kids interacting and making friends online? what's similar about offline? We talked about this a little bit earlier, so maybe Heather, you can start with what was happening online and how you're anticipating moving that offline to online. Did I say that right? I hope so.
Yeah, kind of back,
Okay.
offline.
Yeah.
Well, again, our initiatives, we've kind of just written the grants
Okay.
that got approved, and we are currently in building these sites. So
Well,
some
maybe let me
about
put this a different way.
bullying, yeah.
What are the elements of their offline interaction that you're hoping to capture? And do you find in the experiences that we've had that there have been this senses of, there's the friendships that get formed? Do we know much about like cliques and things like that have formed? Have you seen much of that? And
The
thought
Click
about it? Yeah.
Click program.
Yeah. I guess so.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, well, the Click program, this agency, the spy camp that was week-long, we did create a website, a blog interface that they used throughout the week, long camp. And there were these hopes that it would potentially be there that they could continue on. It was kind of just a static site that we hoped they would do, and obviously
It didn't draw them in the same
it
way.
didn't work. Some of them, we didn't really, I think, promote it in a sense. We're just kind of like, well, it's there for you. It's there to reference in the projects. Every project they did, they kind of uploaded them. So clicks, friending. I think something you spoke about is a mentorship between girls. We obviously hope and are trying to create a community that will foster that. Back to bullying or censorship, we do currently have ability to create a profile on the Brain Cake site, and it does allow you into limited access areas, and there is a forum, and we just don't really have a set up a sense that girls could do anything negative. I had a presentation with somebody that created Scratch. I'm not sure if you're familiar, it's out of MIT, and you can build your own game animation, and it's boys and girls are using it. And he had mentioned something that they found, because it's not moderated, that the girls, it tended to be that the girls were creating more attractive, not as heavy programming needed animations. And then some of the boys were creating like these really time involved, a lot of programming, technical, yes. And that the most popular things were maybe these little hamsters.
The girly ones that were
the
not
girly
as complex.
ones, yes. So then the boys maybe felt slighted and then would kind of comment like, I see another hamster, or what's wrong with you, why don't you learn some programming skills, or so.
Sort of a defensiveness there coming out as an attack or something.
Yes.
And that's not a moderated site. So it's not. Now I know for iTwixie, moderation has been a real focus. And so, does the moderation end up covering this kind of issue, or do you end up moderating out other stuff that just trying to protect the girls kind of from themselves?
Well, actually, it's a growing kind of like manual that we're writing for ourselves in terms of moderation, because we never want to take away from the authentic interaction of the community, and yet we always want to empower the girls to interact in a very respectful, responsible manner. And that's a great example, I think, of an inappropriate dialogue between the boys and the girls. I don't know what age group that is, but
Tween
between
2 teens, so I'd say 11, 17 is probably still.
And it kind of gets back to these milestones of development. We are dealing in a world where we don't know how we're going to be defined in 5 years. And the reason why we are here is because the technology has advanced and progressed in a way that we haven't, as a culture, and I mean that as inherent in that word you can mean, culture. Our culture has not grown to embrace this technology. So what we have are these little babies, really, these very untrained little people trying to engage in a way that we have not prepared them to engage online. And we don't, as adults, have the toolkit to engage online. And then we've allowed them to do so in a way that is unmoderated. again, to get back to, it's not about taking away from the authentic interaction. It's about allowing for respectful intercourse online so that you can understand another point of view, disagree, and progress the conversation to a point where it's meaningful, activating, motivating, or whatever, but isn't disrespectful and then harmful to the individual. And that's where we are right now. We have a lot of families that come on to iTwixie that say, we had to cancel our Facebook account. My daughter's 16, and she can't handle it anymore. She's been abused on Facebook. Can she, and I love this, can she join iTwixie? She's not a tween. And so, of course, we actually have a lot of teenagers through 18 and a couple of college kids that have come to iTwixie for a safe experience that's intellectually stimulating, and also it allows them to reach out and mentor in a way, because they're doing this, I guess they're kind of interacting online in a way that they hope that the younger kids will emulate. I guess that's a kind of a long-winded answer. But the idea is that there are milestones of development that I don't think as a culture have defined. And I think iTwixie, what we're hoping to do is start defining the kinds of modeling that needs to be there to promote social interaction in a way that then can be respectful and really, productive and not destructive, which I think is where we are a little bit in that demographic, and some of these communities that aren't moderated, like Facebook, and it never was intended to be a negative thing, but it's becoming a negative thing for this kind of age group because they're just not ready for it.
Sure. I mean, even grown-ups, I think we experience certain kinds of
we should go there.
Passive aggression, bullying, and all kinds of things. But maybe we've developed enough thick skins that we can handle these things a little bit better. But kids are not. We want them to have their tender little skins as long as possible.
Yeah.
Eileen, you were going to suggest this.
I'm the mother of an 11-year-old boy who has lots of friends who are just your market, and I moderate his Facebook account. And I was on a few weeks ago, and one of the gals in his class was so viciously mean to another person. I got on and said, "This is Vance's mother. Clean it up." And so I know there are a lot of, and I have a couple things to say. When I'm 51, when I was 12, girls were still mean and nasty, and they're going to be as long as there are girls and boys. This is an age where they are different than teenagers, absolutely. My son does not want to watch that mushy kissing stuff on TV, but he does want to watch things blow up right now. So, and he's very active on the internet. I mean, Cindy knows me very well.
He makes videos.
He makes videos. He makes crazy videos on YouTube that are mostly screaming and running, but some of them are pretty funny. Okay, but anyway, so the things I want to say is I love this idea. And I want to know how to bring the iTwixie, to our school. I want you to get in front of our PTO and tell some of these really skittish parents, this is something that your daughters could do safely. And, it'd be great to have, boys are not going to want to be on iTwixie, I guess, sorry. But, and it's not for them, but boys need that too. And so I think what's interesting is that children are they embrace this because they've grown up with it. My son is a texting maniac and has been for a year. And I give him access. I'm a tech person. I give him access to it because I feel like he can use it, and I want to know where he is, and I want him to tell me what he's doing, and that's the best way to do it. It's a great leash. But how do you get in front of the people? So back to where I am. I love that you moderate what goes on. I'd like to get you in front of more people. And for Heather, as a academically an artist academic kind of person, I'm all for that. And I actually am part of a sorority who we're 30 years out of Carnegie Mellon this year, and 10 women that I met with this year, vice presidents of companies. These are the great mentors that could be set up with the rest of these girls. They're all engineers. This is the STEM people who these girls can look up to and say, I want to be like her when I grow up.
Great, so PodCamp's working right here.
Yeah.
Eileen brought some business cards. That's going to
work. I want to talk to both of you. But anyway, I just wanted to say that because it's really difficult. I know a dad right now who probably would allow his daughter to be on iTwixie and will not let her on Facebook.
Something else. My daughter is on iTwixie. We found you about a month ago through word of mouth, and that's pretty much
how it seems to be spreading out. I split sessions, but yeah, we are loving iTwixie. She's 11, and she wants to be on Facebook, and she sees me tweet, and she sees me be very active social media, trying to, and I won't let her do it. I say, it's not for you. It was not built for your age group. No, you're not allowed. And she's very, very angry, and this was the only place that we could. I mean, she kind of grew out of Webkins, and she grew out of what's not the Penguins, the
Club Penguin.
Yeah, Club Penguin. I mean, we grew out of that, and she needed a place to be, with girls her age, and you are.
It's not just even bullying and such. It's like a fear of revealing too much personal information.
Well, that was my. It's the only place I don't care. Yeah, I don't want her to say things she shouldn't say, and I don't want her to be exposed to things she shouldn't be exposed to. But that's it. I want somewhere where it is extremely moderated, where I know that I don't have to sit right there. The computer is in the central location in the house. But I think that is the biggest key with kids is you got to put it where you can see it. But I can't stand behind her every minute that she's interacting on there, and that it is, it's a wonderful thing to be able to know that I can walk away and make dinner and not worry about what she's doing on iTwixie. So
I think Eileen brought up a good point. I don't know if you do this right now, these kind of training sessions, like she said, get you in front of a PTO, but not only about what iTwixie can offer, but for boys or the other offerings online, and how, as a parent to many children who are in that age group, because this was all your idea, right? Then you, Alpha Labs, and it really grew out of a really important special need.
I think that there are a lot of, outreach programs that we look at, and one of the biggest things that happened with iTwixie just recently is that Disney's Family Fun magazine just selected us as one of their top 10 fun websites available for kids, not for girls, for kids. And we're the only girl-targeted website that's featured on that list. And I think part of it is because of this, empowering, very unique kind of message that we're both promoting and then allowing the girls to foster. I wanted to mention something because I think this is there's almost like a myth, I think, that the kids would want to be able to be mean and that they would want to be able to give out their personal information, and that's why they would want to be on a Facebook. And we get 1 or 2 complaints a month that they can't put a cell phone. They want to connect with each other live, and that they can't. And then that same kid will come back and say, I know that this is actually really more safe because I don't really know who that person is. Meanwhile, they're trying to connect with somebody like in another time zone, in another part of the country or continent. These aren't intimate relationships that they're forming. These are online relationships that they're forming. And maybe they do have real people that are on there with them, but they're really online relationships, which is a different level. And again, gets back to our culture. We just haven't really defined all of these kinds of things well yet as we're developing them. So,
for the cell phone example, do you think in some of those cases, are they trying to connect because giving someone your cell phone number is like a signal that, okay, now we're really friends? Mm-hmm. Or is it that they want to talk because they prefer that medium? Or is it because there's, iTwixie does have structured times when you have chats, and so there's like times, there's many more hours in the day when you can't chat than when you can. Or is it some combination?
I think it's the third. It probably is a combination, but it's mostly the third. They actually, some of the girls are even calling the messaging that they are allowed on the walls themselves. They call that, they say message me or text me or Twix me, which is one of the lingos that we've created. And Twixing is the live component on iTwixie, which you pay for, and it complies with COPA and FTC's guidelines, plus all of our own over-the-top moderation, protocol that we put in place. But they do kind of consider all of that, connecting. And I think the cell phone desire is really just to, be able to reach out to each other whenever they really want to. But again, as the culture is developing on iTwixie in any community, they're kind of loving their own little rules because then it empowers them to follow the rules, connect on a level that's safe, and etc. And they don't push anymore. And that's the thing that I find most fascinating. It's a comment, it usually turns into, like if a negative comment is posted, it usually turns into a positive comment, and then that kid will become an ambassador to all of the other kids that then join the community. And they will say, this is the safest place. I used to be on Facebook, and I felt really scared all the time. There was a lot of inappropriate stuff that I saw. And they talk about it. We don't put that messaging out. They do. Which I think speaks to, again, think about that. They actually do, as a kid, you know what you really want. You want your parent to say you can't stay up until midnight. You might ask to, but as a kid, you want to be told, no, you can't, because you want to be taken care of. And that's what I think iTwix kind of does, is like, we take care of these kids so that they can feel great and know that somebody is watching, has their back.
Can I say one about the bullying? Is that I think a lot of the problem with why people bully and the difference between dealing with bully as an adult or as a kid is when you're a kid, you're powerless, you're trapped, you can't get away from many things in life. You're stuck at home. You have few places to go. As an adult, you have escaped. And so the problem with bullying on Facebook is that there's one Facebook. Like everyone has to be there, and Facebook lets you have one account. Like back when I was growing up with AOL, everyone had these ridiculous names that were completely silly. But when you got into trouble, or like people were like just awful to your one username, delete the thing, start up again, have your trusted friends go follow that account. Whereas there's one Facebook, they let you have one profile. That's the problem, I think, is, and that when you are trapped by a bully, your only choice sometimes is to fight back and be abusive and do things that would be wrong in normal life. As an adult, you have escapes. You can say, oh, I'm busy, I have to get away from this, I don't want to deal with you right now. Maybe you have some sort of other clout that you can say, listen, I recognize you're being stupid and I have other people agree with me. As a kid, you don't have all of that.
You didn't have the experience to know that that's a thing you could do.
Right. And you're around people who are equally trapped. And so they're more likely to be bullies.
And you have that volatility of being a tween or teenager. I mean, I have to say, ask any mother of a tween or teen if their child has said something to them that you can't even imagine came out of their mouth. And once the child has said it, they're like, oh, I really didn't mean to say that to you, Mom. And you post it on the internet, it's there. You can take it down, but everyone knows it was there.
I think that's a big thing, is that part of the thing you're saying about culture hasn't caught up with it. When you're face to face with someone as an adult and as you learn your way as a tween and teen, there are certain situations that you're in where you monitor your reaction and what you would say to a person as opposed to what you will say to their avatar or to there's a difference that we haven't quite done. I mean, it's sad that you have to teach people. And Twitter kind of does it on its own. People self-moderate. Or maybe I'm just in with the right group of followers.
Also, Twitter, the reaction time is very fast. Like a blog post, you can say something very mean in a blog post, and the turnaround for someone to react is much longer. And the bandwidth, of course, is so thin because you don't get to see the person's instant face, especially go,
right.
Whatever.
And there's you're missing out on that connection. So I think that plays a little bit into allowing for potential bullies and kids that might already be that way or might have a bad day or whatever, to take it to a whole different level of hurt for the person on the receiving end, because it's like a Nintendo game. We'll just restart tomorrow. We'll just log in tomorrow and it will all be gone, but it isn't gone because that hurt stays with the other person forever while the person who gave it moved on.
Exactly. Yeah.
The scratch example that I gave earlier is in an educational space. If it was in a classroom and somebody said that to everybody, liked this fluffy one, well, there would be dialogue about that was coming from the person, why they said this kind of thing to this other person, and they're hurt, and there could be a discussion about it and a resolution in a sense. But even if a mentor chimes in at some point, it was still there, and the ability to kind of mend it is not the same as having a dialogue right there together.
I think part of what we're talking about here is creating structures that help people then develop behaviors and understanding, and I think that's actually part of what Canteen Online is going to do. Is this maybe we can talk a little bit more about there's going to be projects and teams of people working together toward a goal. Actually, in some ways, very similar, I think, to the reading a book on iTwixie, where you're all getting together and doing. That's what a book group is all about. It's really kind of a team approach to reading and interpreting and understanding. So, and then the mentor aspect of this too, so that there's this idea that I'm not alone. It's not just me relating to individuals, but there are larger forces at work that I can be part of, that I can belong to.
Which was something that we've always found important for offline interactions. I mean, clicks not in a negative way, clicks in a positive way of teaming up and getting positive encouragement from one another and playing different roles within a project.
Well, and if you think about it, when you have those interpersonal experiences in real life, there is a moderator there. Yeah. And what you need to, I think it's easy to think that you're going to throw this online and it's just going to become organically a moderated event, and it won't. You'll have to have someone who is setting the rules, setting the tone, allowing for kind of like a structure, like Cindy's saying, a structure of dialogue so that everybody understands, how then we deal with a moment where we just totally don't like something, which is so great. We want to know, right? We want to know when something is just not hitting the mark. We all want to know that. But there's a way of providing that exact, you can say it in a lot of, 200 ways. What is your way going to be? And I think that is the power of the community that you're creating. Is okay. What's our lingo going to be, and how are we going to foster that?
The other thing about structure too is that it gives people, sometimes constraints are powerful in the sense of fostering creativity. Having a starting point at all, as opposed to just, I'd much rather have a question to answer than a blank piece of paper to fill.
Yeah, so true.
Mm-hmm. That's really appropriate for these kids at this age too. I find that when my son has a project and he has to sit down and write something, he would just about do anything but put that pencil on the paper. But if he has a specific question he has to answer, it's a lot easier for him. He's a math kid and not a writing child. But and the projects you're talking about are things that I think it's really wonderful for those kids.
It's an interesting challenge to come up with the right amount of constraint, because you want the originality to come through. Maybe the originality is always going to be there, and so I don't know. How do you approach that? How do you figure out what is a project? What makes a project?
We have ideas of what we're going to do, but I know you have.
And we're testing some of these out in an opportunity coming up. Is that right?
Yeah, we have quite a bit of testing that we're trying to do, different scenarios.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, so we have a partnership with Pittsburgh Public Schools for girls gaining equity through mathematics, and there's 4 schools that have 180 girls that are eligible for this program, and we're kicking off these power sessions. It's year-long, once a month, with having Big come and kind of figure out creating the profile and giving these girls a role to be advisors in a sense, informing us of what really is helpful for them, what would they like to do, what is an interesting challenge to work on individually or as a group.
It's going to be exciting.
And then Click as well. We have girls who've been a part of the camps, the physical camps that we've done over the years are going to come and meet with the Entertainment Technology Center team and give feedback of, can you imagine this experience online? What would that look like? What would interest you most?
This idea of like emeritus, like as iTwixie goes on, for example, and girls kind of graduate out of it, and it's exciting to know that people from older age groups are coming in and saying, am I still allowed in? Right. But as the years pass and they do move on, it's going to be so exciting to see what does that mean then? Where do those girls go on? What do they go on and do? And do they continue these relationships? How's that going to? I don't know. It's going to be fascinating.
It is. It's going to be really cool. Yeah, and I think that what's super, I guess, unknown and exciting, and like you just said, we have these partnerships with some groups in the country that suggest that this experience is going to propel itself into an adult woman's experience in some way. And how will that then manifest itself? I'm not sure. But it definitely is it's something that women want to give back to the girls that are coming up next. Kind of mentality that is exciting. What will we call that? What will we create to accommodate that? I'm not sure. but it's exciting. And I'm, there's a million things. We obviously need a boy website.
Absolutely.
That's built in the same fashion, which we have on paper, and hopefully will become a reality.
And because there are, what's interesting to see is how my son has migrated through all the different things on Facebook, and now he's really into V-Dream, which I don't know if you're aware of, but it's how you build special race cars, and you have and it's really nice. I'm loving that. That's what he's spending his time on. So those are the kind of things I think the boys, that and statistics of baseball. Those are my.
Well, I can tell you for sure. My 11-year-old now has iTwixie. My 9-year-old son says, "Well, Mom, that's not fair."
Yeah, my 7-year-old son doesn't think it's fair.
No, he's so upset. He's like, "Well, what do I get to do then when I'm 11?" Like, he wants it now, but in his mind, he thinks she's only allowed on it because she's 11. I'm letting him go with that.
Yeah,
And then in 2 years, someone comes up with the whatever version of the boy thing it's going to be. You want to work on that? Come on. But
we have a name already.
But
I can't tell you.
He's ready for it, and he wants it, and
Let's take this minute to sort of sum up that. I think that's really exciting to know that there's so many opportunities, and there's stuff that we're going to see in the future, and I didn't even know about the Yo Boy. If there's any, I don't know if any questions came through on the chat at all that we
That's not by my operation of the chat.
Okay. If there's any that we missed,
it's a qualified answer if I've ever heard one.
I'm sure that both Rebecca and Heather would be happy to answer questions should they come up later. So here are everybody's email addresses and Twitter accounts. And of course, come up and catch us after. We want to clear the room so that the next session can come in. But do you guys have any final points that you want to make or thoughts to share? Either for someone who's creating a website or structure or social context like this, or for a parent who's wondering about it, or for any kids who are online watching PodCamp.
I have to say that the best experience in my professional career has been this one. iTwixie's development, and now the going live and meeting incredible organizations like Heather's, obviously Big, the investment, support that I've gotten from Pittsburgh, and then Disney's nod just recently, and all of the recognition of the need for communities and outreach programs like ours, and I feel totally in 100% collaboration with Heather and her group and groups like them around the world. I think it's amazing, and it's going to get better. So as all these bullying issues, all these scary issues seem to kind of hang, if you're a parent, they're being dealt with in a very natural, wonderful way. And I think technology is going to catch up, and now our culture will too. So that's what I would like to say in summary. I think the tools that we're able to then utilize to do the right things and the greatest things for our kids are here. And we're going to be able to do those kinds of things on behalf of our kids. So I think it's awesome.
I think for me personally, as web curator, I spent kind of my first year at Girls Math Science behind the computer, and then kind of started doing some trainings with the girls, some tech training, and it was just so rewarding balancing the online and offline, and then also making connections with other people in the community. Just try to keep that sensibility in designing online platforms, for girls to use. So it's really this balance of online and offline, and using technology as the end all of the way to enhance the relationship that we all can have.
That's a great way to look at it. And a nice way to sum up our session. Thank you both so much for sharing your experience and your knowledge.
Thank you.
Very
You
cool.
did a great job.
Thank you guys all so much for joining in and asking me questions.